Welcome, everyone, to the Fire This Time's Fireside Chat. My name is Caesar Williams. I'm the artistic director of the Fire This Time, and I am super excited to have a few moments to chat with one of our season 14 writers, Cris Blak, whose play Tough will be featured in the 10-Minute Festival this year. Cris, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I wanted to just start off by just saying that I don't know if you know this, but the selection process for the festival is blind. So very often I know the play, but I don't know who wrote it. So I think we had selected the plays, and like I said, I don't pay attention to who the writer was. And then I went to the NEC One Act Festival that my wife Cynthia was in, and your play, Clipper Cut Nation, was in as well. And I was watching the play, and I was like, "Wow, this feels very similar. Like it had a lot of the same tone of Black masculinity was common in Clipper Cut Nation, as well as your play Tough, which is in the festival." So I guess the first thing I would ask is tell us about Tough, and is that something you're trying to do in terms of showing an expanded view of Black masculinity?
Absolutely. So what Tough is a play about these two college frat brothers named Coach and Goose, who meet up 1 year after the death of Coach's son, who was a high school football player. And like you said, it focuses on masculinity and that kind of conversation that begins as kind of, you know, to console, one man consoling the other after his son's death, becomes one of accountability and becomes one of masculinity and what could have been done differently or could have been done better, and mistakes that were possibly made, and voices and cries that may not have been heard for one reason or another. And I think that along with Clipper Cut and along with most of my shows focus on Black masculinity, Black male mental health, the way that, because I feel like a lot of the time when we see portrayals of Black men, conversation isn't what they're having, whether that be a news headline, a piece of film, a piece of theater, a piece of music. Usually it's pulling the guns out or
Yep.
it's pulling the fist up. Um, and so, what I have been trying to examine, especially recently with Tough and with Clipper Cut, is what happens when the situation is heightened. What happens when it's a situation and a conversation full of anger and full of hurt, but it doesn't result in anyone dying at the end. Instead, it results in conversation. And what happens when those guns don't come out, but words come out?
Yeah.
Um, and so wanting to really focus on that, but also it's in this place specifically wanting to focus on athletics, wanting to focus on parenting and fatherhood, and the kind of Black male sphere in terms of those things, and kind of zoom in on those specifically.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I think that's powerful. And during the selection process, that was one of the things that many people on the panel pointed out regarding your work, that we don't see that. Like that really, like, I was getting a little tired of the phrase, things that we rarely see on the American stage. I'm like, well, they're very, there's some things we rarely see, but not all the things we're talking about. But your portrayal of Black manhood was something that was nice to see, especially from a male identifying playwright. Like I do find that a lot of our Black female playwrights are very good at that, but very often as men, we're not as adept. So thank you very, very much. What other projects are you working on currently?
Yeah, well, right now I'm working on another show with the Negro Ensemble Company that will go up next year, in like a couple months, I guess. Then I'm also working on a commission piece with the Napa Valley Shakespeare Festival. The play is called Miss City Hall, and it's about Mary Ellen Pleasant, who's a historical figure who has been forgotten by history. You won't find her in any textbook or anything, but she's an extremely important figure, who was, along with like a Madam C.J. Walker, a Black female millionaire in the 1800s, who would now be a Black female billionaire by today's standards, who founded a lot of businesses, had her hands all over the business life in San Francisco, but whose legacy has been tainted, and whose reputation was tainted when she was still alive. And because her enemies outlived her and the rumors and the gossip outlived her, that became her legacy. And she was, been widely forgotten by history. So it's been really interesting delving into that story, and trying to bring it out and bring it into relevance and kind of make people know who this woman was, because she deserves to be talked about. And then just a lot of little projects here and there. I'm currently the emerging playwrights fellow with Scoundrel and Scamp Theater in Tucson, Arizona. So writing a show with them now, targeted towards young people and families. And it's kind of a, it's a hip hop story. It's a family story, having to do with grief and dealing with loss, and finding your voice through art. So yeah.
Cool. Very, very cool. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but I was raised in Houston, Texas.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Houston, Texas?
Oh, I am who I am because I was raised in Houston, Texas. Houston, I see Houston right beside a New York City or beside a Chicago or a Los Angeles in terms of both size and influence and diversity. It's no place I lived was there one kind of people. There
Mm,
was always different languages being spoken around me. There was always I lived in, the apartments that we would live in when I was growing up were basically these immigrant communities of people who were coming to Texas, from all around the globe. And what it did was created an environment that I was being raised in, where I was seeing people wake up at 5 a.m. to go to a job that may not be the quote unquote desired kind of work, and not coming home till the sun had gone down, from sun up to sundown, working and coming home and still cooking, for their families and still providing and still like that. So I was really fortunate to grow up around that kind of image of the American dream, which was in direct contrast to what, again, headlines and stuff were showing, which is that people from different countries were dangerous and all these lies and stuff. But what I was seeing was the exact opposite of that. And being raised in a place that was so diverse and so vibrant, both personally and artistically, fed me into the artist that I would eventually become.
beautiful. What were you like as a child?
Oof. I was a lot of things as a child. I think as a small child, I was definitely extremely shy. I was the kid who just wanted to like be in his sketchbook, and all that kind of stuff. I was extremely just fine with my solitude as a small child. But kind of in direct contrast to that, in high school, I was that annoying kid who was like freestyling at the table during lunch, making as much noise as possible. So I was whatever personality exists at one point in my life growing up, I was that personality.
That's cool. What would you tell your childhood self? What would you tell your childhood self if you could go back in time?
I would tell my childhood self absolutely nothing. I would tell him absolutely nothing, because if I told him something, it would influence his decisions.
Yes.
And I think that every move I made, whether it was a good move, a bad move, a rise, a fall, a slip, a failure, needed to happen, because I learned a lesson out of all those things, and I grew a little bit out of all those things, and it formed me into who I am and continues to form me. So I would say absolutely nothing. I would say just whatever you're thinking about doing, do it. And I would just let him make those mistakes and learn and grow and all that stuff.
Perfect, perfect. If you were not doing what you are doing now, what would you do?
That's a good question. If I wasn't doing what I was doing now, I would honestly probably be teaching high school history or high school English. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would be doing.
I could totally see that. I can totally see that. Thank you so much, Cris, for taking the time to speak with us. Uh, Everyone, Cris Eli Blak, please come and check out The Fightest Time season 14 to see Chris's play tough. It is absolutely amazing. It is heart wrenching and edifying for us all. So thank you again and see you all soon. Bye bye.